Hey there. So today we're going to try something different. I'm going to start doing a series where I do step-by-step walkthroughs of how I edit photos. Today we're going to start with Electro Cosplay and this amazing cosplay she did at Anime NYC. So first and foremost, be sure you follow Electro Cosplay on Instagram. Her work is sensational. She's super nice and she really does not have the following she deserves. Her craftsmanship is amazing, and yeah, this is one of the photos I shot of her in this cosplay. Now, let's get to the photo we're going to work on today. So this is the finished product. Well, not quite finished, but as far as we can go in Photoshop. Now, this is the before, and this is the after. So what you see is, I'd say about 24 steps in Lightroom to get me here. And then we're going to finish this off in Photoshop, just cleaning up a few stray things like this line over here, this line over here, and whatever the sneaker is, we're going to get rid of that as well. So this is the fun part for me because I spent way too much time editing this, and yeah. So what we're going to do is hit Y, go back to the main image, then we're going to open this up and reset it. So boom, all the work is done, and you see a pretty different image. For the most part, it came out pretty good. Thankfully, I was able to capture her with good lighting. Thankfully, the crowd stepped back and gave us some place to shoot. But this is interesting. So the first thing you want to do when you edit any kind of photo and you're using an automatic lens is go to in Lightroom, enable profile corrections, and then remove chromatic aberration. Now, I shot this on my Sony a7 III with my Rokinon 35mm 1.4 lens. The best way to get Sony colors to really pop right is to, in the calibration, raise the blue primary saturation to about 20-ish. I think I had it to 21 last time, so let's try to get that with the mouse. Boom. So, looks nice already. You can already see real quick the difference between the first and the second one. The colors pop a little bit more. So the next thing we're going to do is change the image size to 4:5. So we go up here, aspect ratio 4:5, and we try to find something that works. Now, what I want to do is keep as much as the ceiling in this as possible because it feels like this is an epic shot. So I'm going to try to get as little as the floor in here as I can. Boom. That feels about right. Now she's front and center in the pic, but the best part is when you're doing this on Instagram, she's going to be shown, because you know Instagram sometimes crops your images when you're scrolling through. Her face is going to be what's there. So this is what we want. Now, next step. We're going to raise the contrast a bit to 16. All right, she's popping a little more. Now, we raised the blue color saturation here. Problem is this person who dared come into my shot. So what do we do about that? We're going to get the adjustment brush, and we're going to desaturate this person. How dare she? I think that's a kimono, and I'm sure that was a very pretty kimono. We're also going to desaturate a lot of other things in the image that may have been affected by the increased saturation. Because Electro's the star of this image. We don't really want anything or anyone else getting too much attention. Now, you see here, we got that red over here, that red and blue. We got this blue. We got that blue over there. The image just calm down a little bit more. Let's try up here for a bit. Okay, that looks good. So this still feels like it can go a little warmer for me. So I'm going to raise this from 7900 to 7950. Because if you notice, this is almost kind of blown out. The background is blown out there. So we're going to drop the highlights to -11. Raise the whites by 5. Now, the colors are popping a bit, but it's just not enough for her blonde wig. So let's try to play with that a little bit. Now, in the HSL color selection here, we're going to drop yellow luminance by 15. Now, this isn't set in stone. You can change this as much as you want. Now I'm going to raise the saturation by 12. Raise the sharpness up to 43. Now, this still needs more work. Let's get the graduated filter. Here. There we go. Raise texture by 6 and the clarity by 4. So what we're trying to do here is make everything around her face pop a little bit more with details. We don't want to get her face. So duplicate this, grab the duplicate, flip it around, bring it up here. And now we're trying to just making this stand out a bit more with the details. So the back is still blown out, especially back here. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to get the adjustment brush. Sorry for that clicky sound, but I just got a new mouse and it's actually meant for gaming. So it has this little clicky sound when I use a scroll wheel. And I actually hate it because I never like that feeling when I'm scrolling. I'm going to drop the highlights by 100. So there's that without highlights dropped, with highlights dropped. Now the background, you get to see some of the buildings behind the Javits sensor. You get to see some more colors coming in. It's just not as distracting from her and her hat. So yeah. So we raise the clarity a bit. One of the weird things that happens whenever you do clarity and sharpness is sometimes skin gets weird. And we're gonna go to her legs and we're gonna smooth this out a bit because I've noticed whenever I edited a photo and I raise clarity or sharpness too much, it almost looks like people's legs and arms get hairier or varicose veins starts popping out. And it's very weird because no, she does not have legs like that. And most people do not have that. It just pops up and it's really annoying. So I'm just gonna paint over this part here. I'm just gonna soften it and that's gonna get rid of that look. Now, if you wanna see what you've done, hit O on the keypad and that'll make everything that you painted over orange. And then it's easier to just find out what you missed and get the edges a little bit better. Lower the texture. To 54. So let's go through that real quick so you can see what this is after. This is before. You notice all these extra lines that, and trust me, that her legs did not have any sort of lines or veins like that. This is just what happens when you play with clarity and stuff. Let's put it back, all smoothed up. Now, yes, this is a tiny little detail most people won't catch, but sometimes people do. And especially if you're showing things off to photographers, their eyes are trained to just go to what's wrong in the image. And I know anytime I see an image and something like this, it just grabs my attention and ruins the rest of the shot for me. So it's kind of good to be a little OCD. So there's that. Now we're going to do some more texture work, this time on her face. Let's make it orange, we can see what we're doing. We're going to drop the texture here. Let's try 40. I had 37 before, but let's see. So this is after, so before, after, and I think that's a lot better. I like to make the eyes pop, especially if I'm doing something for Instagram. The weirdest thing about Instagram is the eyes almost always need a little bit more love, and this is something I do to make the eyes pop in my most recent images. So just pretty much painting around the eyes, so you get to see. It makes the eyes pop a little bit more, so they're easier to just see. They grab your attention just a little bit more. So there's that, and I'm going to do a lot more to the eyes. Next, play with the irises. So I'm lightening them up, exposure a little bit, shadows a little bit, and then I'm going to pump the color up to about everybody's favorite number, 69. There we go. You know what, we're going to play with this a little bit more. And the hard thing is knowing when to stop, because you also don't want to have like Game of Thrones zombie eyes going on. But just like that, that's subtle enough. And again, out here you won't see it, but if we did like a zoomed in break shot, you notice this. So we're going to do another graduated filter here. Gonna drop the highlights a bit more. Say 25. So I like this shot because it kind of gives you the idea. It kind of looks like she's bringing the light. There we go. So it looks like she is the light focal point. She's the focal point of the image, and that she's the brightest part of the image for the most part. But the way she's standing is if kind of like a holy priest or something in like MMOs and RPGs, where the light surrounds her and comes from her, and the way the image is just, even before I did anything to it, it just looks like that. So we're going to play that up a bit. I'm going to raise the shadows, and again, you're seeing more detail on top, and that wonderful design of the ceiling. Drop the highlights, so again, that's easier to see. And we're going to dehaze this a bit. Okay, so let's see what I just did there. Let's again go here. I believe that was the one we just did. So this is after and before. So go. Let's do that so that not so much of a clear line. I just noticed when I did that before that there was a harsh line over here where it happened. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, see right here? This is why I made the graduated filter a bit bigger, because the larger it is, the more of a transition there is between what you did and the area that's not affected. And here, the line is a little too harsh. So let's go back to edit, redo the update. And now you can't really tell the transition is happening here. It's still affecting all of this up here, but there's just a bit more of a transition happening, so it's harder for the eye to see. We're gonna do one more because again, she is where the light comes from. And I kind of want to make it harder to see the people in the background. Bear with me, I'm figuring this out. Okay, now she really pops out as what's the bright part of the image. Actually, no, adjust that again, maybe move it a little bit more. The cool part is there's this natural darker break here where you're going to see the changes happen. So yeah, I like that. Now here's a problem. Now that we've done all that extra shadows and dropped the highlights up here, her crown doesn't pop as much as it did before. So we're going to fix that. Actually, first let's zoom in. Ooh, too much. Actually, this kind of works. We'll just go about it a little. First, I hit the adjustment brush. I'll show you guys what I just did. Then I hit the space bar. Once you hit the space bar, you notice the adjustment brush goes from trying to paint to just showing magnifying glass plus. So that lets you zoom in. And then with your finger still on the space bar, you can reach around the image and use your left mouse button to just grab and drag the image. Okay, so here we are. We're going to start painting. So there we go. And remember, hit O to see what you're painting. I like to just start off small on the edges and the tips so I can get those little corners. And then right when you have a good grasp on the edges, you just start painting. Now, there's going to be a link to this photo on Dropbox where you guys can download the raw image and just, follow along and do step by step along with me. And, share your edits. Tag hashtag Nardio so you can see, or I said, let's go with Nardio edits. I don't know, I'm new to this whole thing. And you can post your edits of this. Be sure to tag Electro, and if possible, me in the image, that'd be great. So we can just see what you've done. You don't have to follow this exactly. But I have a lot of friends and associates who they want to get into Lightroom, they want to get into Photoshop, they want to get into photography, but it's scary and overwhelming for them. And honestly, I totally understand. Like when I first started doing photography, it was a bit daunting. Like here I am, a big old tough guy, and I would see all these bars and sliders, and like, oh my god, this is too much. And I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna screw things up. And the cool part is, Lightroom is not destructive unless you hit delete. Delete the image from your library. You can't really screw this up. Like, bam, raise the exposure here a bajillion, dehaze it a bajillion, done. Oh no, I messed it up. You can reset everything and bring it back. Now I'm gonna hit Control Z because I don't want to reset everything. And then I'm gonna go here. And then you can just undo what you did. It's not that scary. Let's find that a brush. See this pin? That's the adjustment brush we were just working on. And we could double click exposure, double click dehaze, and that brings everything back to center. And we can just continue going where we're at. 4. There we go. So you can't break it, which is nice. And honestly, I sound confident, but trust me, I am not. And I'm still learning how to do Photoshop. You're going to see me do minimal edits in Photoshop because I still haven't mastered that. And from what I gather, Photoshop is even more powerful than Lightroom. You could do everything you did in Lightroom in Photoshop. But I just so happen to learn Lightroom first. Hi, Mochi. Hi. You want attention now that I'm doing something. That's my cat. She's kind of chatty. All right, so what I'm going to do now is adjust the scroll wheel to make this smaller so I can get these little edges here. I'm going to raise the highlights a bit. And as you notice, as I do that, she's starting to kind of almost glow a bit. And I think 26 to 30, you start seeing it really shine. 30 is a bit much. We're going to leave it at 26. 25. You could also just click here. Let's put 25, enter. I don't want to make it too bright because then I'd have to raise the rest of her outfit. So I'm going to show you what would happen. I can do that, but then it starts looking a little bit overblown. So that looks good on some parts, and other parts it just doesn't work. I say that, and I find myself kind of liking it. Let's see. What if we hit Alt, and then okay, so I'm just going to have it where her shoulders are what pops here. So let's clean this up a little bit. Hit Alt with the adjustment brush to get rid of what you overdid. I expected to have this my workflow all done and perfect. But as I'm shooting this, I'm like, I kind of like this more. Their shoulders popping a bit more. Let's see how that looks. I like it. Okay, yeah, so I think I had to fix this area in her crown here. O, so I can see what I did. I'm going to zoom in. Oh yeah, when I hit O when I click this, I actually moved it down a bit. So we're going to, with the adjustment brush, hit Alt and clean up all that. Let me just show you what I'm doing here. Alt. There. All right, that's fine. Now, this is working pretty well for me. I feel like it can be a little bit more colorful, just a scotch. Just want it to be a-okay. So we're gonna just bring the saturation up by bring it up by 2. So she looks sensational. So the problem right now is the Javit signs. Too bright for my taste. So we're gonna, again, use the adjustment brush. We're gonna paint over the red parts here. I don't know why, but sometimes it just saves the last settings you did. So here we are. The hard part for this is always getting the edges just right. Now hit O. There we go. See what we're painting. I know there's a setting to change the color of what you highlighted, but I don't know how to get there right now. And this works. So again, we want Electro to be the brightest, most colorful spot of this picture while still making it somewhat believable. So we're just going to go through here and make sure she is the star. It still blows my mind how detailed that cosplay was. Later on, we're going to edit more photos of her work, and you're going to see just, by God, how much time and effort she put into that. Beautiful work, beautiful work. But I would love to shoot this like at a castle someplace if possible. Like, I love Anime NYC. I love it to death. It's a great con. The staff behind it's pretty good, pretty great actually. But it's just, it doesn't work with cosplay so much because, there you go. Oh yeah, this person's head. Let's see. I'll clean up the edges in a second. But it's just not an attractive venue. Like, when it's nice and empty, you get like a nice kind of like a hall shot, but the con's been doing better and better and better recently, so it's hard finding an empty spot to get like a nice good hall shot. And the outside is just ugly. Just ugly, which is sad. I'm going to drop the saturation here. Let's, oh, wrong one. Wrong button. So you want to drop it till it's not as distracting, but you want to make it too dark because then it becomes distracting because it's like, why is that all gray? Like, it's too gray, you know? Even if I clean up the edges, it's just too much. So let's bring that back to like, I think negative 26 is fine. Actually, let's go here one more time. Did I miss anything? We'll paint that over. Any other bright spots in the crowd? Not really. Okay. So let's do one more thing before we go to Photoshop. Let's brighten up these jewels. So our friend, once again, the adjustment brush is going to be brought out. We're going to take the time to slowly paint all the jewels. We're going to do this to make them pop a bit more. Actually, here's what we'll do. We'll do like a fun halvesies here, so you can just see what I did and then what I'm going to do. So we're going to pump that a little bit and make them a little more blue. Raise the exposure a bit. Shadows on that a little bit. Okay, pop back out. So let's go here once again. Okay, let's redo that. All right, I feel like that works. Okay. There we go. Now let's do this small so you can see the difference. See how it's just getting a lot bluer and clearer. Noticing the texture on that some more. Blue is popping a bit more. That's what we want. We want these gems to really pop out. How much you took the time to add all these gems, you might as well make sure they shine. Now let's play with this one. So what I'm trying to do is get the similar stones, all the blue ones, do that edit, and then do all the bluish green ones. A little more green, a little bit of blue, clarity, exposure, drop the highlights. All right, I like that. A little bit of coffee to help. Up the saturation. Back out real quick. Yeah, I think that looks good. Just work on the rest of them. A little bit slower. I think that looks a lot better. Now, to really get OCD. Now this looks pretty bad zoomed in. Let's see how it looks zoomed out. I'm trying to keep everything even, so I'm just using the settings from what I did above. This does look... Yeah. I feel like for the ones in the bottom, I'm going to have to use something different. Zoom back in there. Let's get rid of what we just did there, because it just doesn't work here. Come on. I'm going to hit done. I'm going to start another one for the ones down here because they're just blown out because of the light. So let's try to work with them, but work with them on their own because what we did before just isn't going to work here. I think the big thing we need to do here is drop the highlights in those spots. Bump the color so they pop a lot. Pump the clarity. We want these to be focal points. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. And I'm going extreme with the numbers here, but we're just, again, trying to make these things pop a little bit more than they were, and I think that works. Let's work on these. Now, since these are in the shade, I'm just going to do a whole new set of settings for this. That way we don't have things just look weird. So I'm going to go more green, blue here, try to keep it balanced. Pump that. I think that works. Hey, buddy. Cats want attention. All right. I think besides this area right here, I can do with a little less color. So this is always a good idea to just stop and look at your photo and just see what else could use some loving. And I think her face is a bit dark for my taste. So we're going to get, let's zoom this out. We're going to use the radial filter. Invert it. So what that's going to do when you hit invert is all the changes you do is just going to be in the circle. I don't know why, but by default, if you don't invert things, it's the outside, but okay. So I'm going to raise the feather a bit. So what feather is what part here. So feather is just how much of this is the difference between the change of where it happens. So the bigger the feather, actually we want a smaller feather here. That's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing here. See how that looks. I feel like her face is a little too bright now. Just a scotch. Drop that highlight a little bit more. All right, I think that's good. Check out a before and the after. So yeah, that's pretty good difference. Jewel on the floor look good. All right, so let's clean up what we need to clean up in Photoshop. So right click, edit in Adobe Photoshop. So I'm horrible at Photoshop, and I'm getting better because I'm practicing. But I'm like rebellious when I do things. I almost always do all my work on one layer. So be prepared to judge me in the comments. I'm ready for it. Let's see. So there's only a few things we need to fix here. For the most part, the image is flawless. What we're going to do is get rid of this spot, get rid of this line, get rid of this line, and get rid of this line. You don't even notice this line, but you do if you're a photographer. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. Then you're going to use your lasso tool to go around this horrible thing. Circle it, right click, fill, content aware, okay. Bam. Now there's a scotch that always wants to stay because Photoshop isn't as amazingly perfect as it could be, but you do it twice, sometimes a few times, and it's for the most part gone. Now, every once in a while, content aware doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and there are other ways to do this, but thankfully it's doing what it needs to do. So, pretty simple. Bam. Beautiful. Now, is there anything else I want to get rid of? You know, I don't like that light right here. So, let's get rid of it. Nope. Okay, that didn't work out so well. So I'll show you the other way I do things. You go to Patch tool here, you select it, circle the whole thing, a little bit extra, and you drag it over to a spot that looks like how you want. Bam, magic. Now, I didn't really mean to get rid of that last spot, but now I'm just playing around here. Ooh, a little sloppy, but that's fine. That's fine. So here's one thing that Jazz pointed out to me yesterday when we were like going through my 10 billionth iteration of this photo. This little spot right here. This little spot right here looks like a stain when you put it on Instagram. It's the weird, annoying part about Instagram, that like things that don't look like a problem become a problem. So I'm gonna try to take this part right here, copy it out. That looks like it's gonna be a bit better. Zoom out. That's better. That's better. That's better. That just little part. Now, again, this isn't anything against her work. When you look at that cape she has, it's like butterfly wings from the back. It's beautiful, just beautiful work. And she has lights on it. It's really nice. But from the front and in an image, it doesn't look quite right. So, and this is just her first iteration of the cosplay. I'm sure the next time she does it, she'll probably do the back to match the front. But just here, that's just the only thing we had to fix. But if you wanted to be OCD and go through things, like super OCD, you can probably just go back and fix dots, or maybe like tiny edges here. But since we're not really going to be zoomed in too much in this photo, you don't really need to do that. And there's a wonderful saying I heard a couple years ago, and I adopted it. Done is better than perfect. Perfect, I'll never stop playing with this picture. I'll try to cut this guy's head out, to get rid of that sneaker. I clean up every little part of the cosplay. I'll actually show you something you could do if you're going to be OCD. You can go through wrinkles and get rid of them. Now, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with being a perfectionist, but like at a certain point, you got to stop and move on with your life. Grab dinner, hug your loved one, play with your cats, and work on other things. But one of the weird things I've discovered is like the more you do photo edits, the harder it is to be pleased, because then you're able to spot more things that are per se wrong. And then when you look at photos, it's easier for you to just like find faults instead of being able to take it in. And I don't know, like I can go through and spend a good lot of time de-wrinkling this and finding problems with my eyes like that. See, this you don't even notice unless you're super zoomed in, and no one's gonna look at the shot that zoomed in. This little orange bit here, I can get rid of that in Lightroom. I can probably get rid of it here, I just don't know how. But hey, anyway, let's call this done, because we're trying to make this tutorial, kind of not too long. So file, save. See here, it's still finished shaving. So now that it's saved, you can just close out Photoshop. Now the fixed final version is going to be on Instagram here. And now that we spotted that little thing, let's be OCD and fix it. Or just fix it as much as we can. Oh. Why are you being crazy, computer? I don't appreciate that. And this is something you will never notice until you notice it. And then once you notice it, your eyes are drawn to it. Just paint this. Oh. And guess what? We're desaturating, people. We're going to go for 100 here. So what this is when you go to conventions, you have weapons or cosplay props that make you put a little tag on it. So the cosplayers have to learn how to hide that tag in photos. Okay, so now it's basically gone. You don't even notice it. Hey there, it's Future Bernardo here to add a few more things. When I was about to post this on Instagram, I realized it needed a little bit more. So I went back and I'll show you what I did. First, I used the radio filter, and as you can see here what my changes were, and I dropped the highlights by 4. So I'm going to hit O here so you can see what I did there. Then I went in and she had a small blemish here that I got rid of. So I used the clone tool to heal. Actually, let's do that. And then I'll show you that was there. And I cloned it out. Then I went to the eyes, and while I wanted to drop the overall highlights in the face, I wanted the eyes to be a bit brighter because I was going to use a closer shot for the thumbnail for the video and also for when I post this on Nardio, the feature image. So I highlighted this. and I raised the exposure by 24. Then I went to the eyes, and then you can see a little bit of dehaze and up the shadows a little bit to bring a little more color in, and that's it. That's all I did to the shot. So let's get back to showing you how to export. So let's export this for Instagram. I'll show you what I do. File, export, give it a name. Let's give it the Electro Tutorial, let's spell it for fun, tutorials final. Now, limit file size to 1600K, resize to fit long edge, 2048 pixels. I like to sharpen for screen. I hate having to watermark my images. I really hate having to watermark my images, but there are so many BS Instagram profiles that just copy other people's works and post it and just say, hey, follow us for more, and screw the photographer. So we're going to put a big old Nardio logo on the bottom left. You hit export, and you're done. So that's it. We finished the image. I'm going to post this soon on social media, and I hope you guys like it. If you like this, don't thank me. Thank my Patreon supporters. They are who keep me going, and that support enables me to do what I do. I hope you like it. Please like, follow, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I hope you're all doing well. Have a great week. Bye. Love you.